Zach with Zach's Contraptions doing another live Q&A for the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest and, well, anything Rube Goldberg related. We are coming up on the National Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, so definitely a point that I want to cover today. Welcome to anybody watching. Welcome to those who watch this later. Happy to answer any and all questions related to, again, Rube Goldberg or the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest. If there aren't any questions, what I am going to do is I'm going to just cover a lot of the logistics for the national contest because for the first time in the contest history, not only are we having high school and college teams, but again, we are having elementary and middle school teams. These groups, these teachers have never, ever been to the contest before. Thereby, or maybe you visited, but you've never been a part of the contest before. And I really want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So again, if you are watching this and you have successfully moved on to the national competition, number one, well done. Congratulations. Woo. And number two, I hope you learned something from this. If you're watching live and you don't want to learn about the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, ask a question and I will certainly stop and answer whatever it is you have. So with it, for the National Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, that is going to be on April 6th. So we're just about a month away from the contest. Hey, look, question already. And question, no comments. So from the Boilermaker Chain Reaction team, congratulations to you guys. You guys are moving on to the Nationals. Have a couple questions for you about some feedback and the national contest itself. By all means, ask away. In fact, I'm going to send you guys, because I have your email address, I'm just going to send you the link and then we can talk directly. So let me very quickly jump to an email. I apologize. And Boilermaker, because that's the best way that I can do this. Link, and then send it to you guys, and boom. So whenever you guys hop on, happy to chat. Or if you don't want to put your faces on camera, by all means, certainly leave it in the chat. To start off again, April 6th being the date, and most people aren't coming from Purdue. You're coming from about an hour, 2 hours, or some cases I looked at it, 5 hours away. We'll find out exactly who that group is. It's a very long drive. One group, I think, is even attempting to fly to the contest for the very first time from a foreign country. So, wow. And props to you guys. But first thing I do want to talk about is let's get rid of that background bit. Is actually talking about the logistics of traveling to the contest. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Purdue, if you're unfamiliar with the West Lafayette, the city that it's from, you'll learn that hotels are kind of far and few nearby the campus. So as I pull that up on Google Maps for you, it's basically just, let's see. Sorry, as I have a comment. Let's bring that up. Oh, there they are. Never mind. We'll get back to it because there you guys are. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm scattered at the moment. So you're giving me a chance to pull up Google Maps. Congratulations again. And thank you guys for being here.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's a very exciting time for us. And we're very much looking forward to, the grind that is this next month heading into the national competition. But we're super excited for what it's going to look like and seeing all the different teams there. It's exciting for this to be a truly national event with a whole bunch of different levels now.
Exactly. And yeah, I'm really excited to see all the different students there because, you've been part of this for quite a number of years. And yeah, it's just mainly been the high school and even just college going at it alone. And so yeah, really just all walks of life. And in fact, 35 teams. I was trying to look into history, and I think at max we ever had 12 teams at once in the Armory. So, yeah, 35 from all over the country, and even one attempting to get here via plane.
That's gonna be quite an adventure.
That is something. What questions do you guys have? What questions do you guys have?
So we pretty much had two main questions that at least come to my mind right now. And for the first one is, we have a rather large machine. For resetting the machine, does the machine still have to stay within the 12-foot by 12-foot box? Or for resetting purposes, can parts of it be essentially pulled apart outside of that 12-foot by 12-foot to get to some of the things more on the inside?
Absolutely. So Yeah, if you need to reset something, if you need to go get a tank of water, if you need to pull something and bring it down, by all means. It's mainly during the actual runs.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's within your boundaries so that everybody is, on the same playing field. But, if your machine has doors, I was just looking at the 2018 machine, for example, with those rotating wheels.
Yes.
And, if the machine needs to open up and it goes over the boundaries, you're not going to be faulted. The big issue being, just resetting within the time that you have.
Yeah.
So, with it, which was it, 15 minutes, correct?
Yeah, I think for the college level, I believe it's 20, actually. I think that was...
I was trying to remember if I did 20 or 15 for college.
I believe you did 20 for the collegiate level, if I'm not mistaken.
I will look it up because there's so many different things.
That's a key detail, especially with the amount of steps trying to reset in such a limited time.
Yes, absolutely. But the nice thing, especially for this year, being, anybody, any amount of team members are allowed to help with the reset. Let me pull that up. Let me do that really quickly because
all good.
My mind is telling me that I think I brought it down to 15 minutes guaranteed. That's not the maximum amount of time.
Well, yes, you did mention specifically that, for instance, however many other teams there are, if it takes longer than that allotted time to get back to you for your second or third run, then you have enough time, or you have as much time as it takes to get back to you outside of whatever time that's guaranteed if it takes shorter than that.
Exactly. And I did set it at 15 minutes so that we can keep the contest running.
Yeah.
Because if we look at the event schedule. Now, the nice thing for collegiate is collegiate has the least amount of teams out of anybody. Yes, it'll be enforced, but at the same time, if we walk a little slower to your machine. The beautiful thing is, not only am I the national contest director, but I'm also the MC for the event. So I control the pacing. Not just saying for you guys, of course, but, for any team, it's just like, if I see that you're struggling, if I see that, you're obviously still there, it's just like, and if we look over here, ladies and gentlemen, while we take a couple seconds extra to reach team number 3. Again, I don't want anybody to be hindered because of something. And you'll have a liaison. So, every 2 or 3 teams, one liaison is going to be assigned to that group. So if you have questions, if you're having a problem with your machine, you'll be able to talk to that person, and then they'll be able to find me and ask a question during the event. So that way you never have to leave your machine. You never have to, wonder where's Zach at or where's somebody. They're going to know they'll either have the answers or they can find me while I'm in the midst of everything. So
gotcha. Good to know.
Yep. What else you got?
So the second question is kind of a 2-part question, or it's got a couple parts to it. And it has to do with some of the feedback that we got on our machine. So we wanted to know if getting some clarification, if you can, about what you mean by narrating the machine as it runs, and sort of some suggestions for that, what that looks like, as well as you mentioned the concept of taking turns while reading the story and some of your suggestions on that.
Absolutely. Glad you brought that up. And this one, I do have a video prepared. So let's go to... start sharing that. We have the news article that'll be coming out soon, but be able to put this up. So share this screen instead. So we've got this run, and this is from 2018, whereby here's the Rube Goldberg Machine contest. Here's it going. And I'll even turn on the sound. The machine itself is running, but you notice everyone's just kind of standing there and nobody's really doing anything. When we get to the end of the video, you'll notice that the task happens. There's a large group of people, but in essence, the whole thing is just you're standing there silently and expecting people to hopefully understand what's occurring. What I would love is, number one, when you do your first presentation, before your very first run, you do that narration, the presentation. It is a team event. And, rather than just having one person read a script there, go to the effort of having, one person memorize lines 1 through 3, the next person go through to the next, and make it a skit, make it a story. You have a story already from what I heard. But just it adds to the overall feel, because the best way I can always put it with the Rube Goldberg in the contest is you're putting on a show for the audience. This is going to be, there'll be cameras on you. It's actually, I'm proud to announce that it's now live streamed. So it will be going out, which the last statistic showed that we had 7,000 people tune in for the last Rube Goldberg Machine Contest, and we're expecting around 10,000. So you're putting on a show for quite a large audience and making sure that, hey, you're doing your initial bit semi-interesting, but then also during the machine run, you built it. You spent months on it. Everybody spent a long time building their projects, and you understand it. But myself, I'm an expert. I understand probably 90% of it, and the people behind you maybe understand 50%, and the people who are sitting behind those people can only see 10% and, whatever the camera actually captures. So rather than sitting there and watching your machine, having a designated person, be the announcer, so to speak. What I'll do is I'll have the microphone and I'll physically hand you the mic, whoever that may be. And, just like, and off we go. And, for the first step, the globe spins, which pulls the train across the platform. And then all of a sudden the smoke rises and the smoke billows out. And that causes this little gnome to cough. And the coughing gnome then jumps across. This is me pulling a machine out of my butt. But you get the idea. Just basically narrating it along the way. But also if something goes wrong, there's nothing wrong with having interventions when you have to touch the machine in order to make it work. Continue on. And simply announcing that, slight intervention here, that helps the judges. That helps them know that, hey, there's a touch, helps the referee see that, that's one tick on his box. And it keeps the whole event more lively. So.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think some of the clarification or even suggestions that we were looking for your input on that side of things is kind of the, obviously, very well, and with everyone that has seen a lot of these machines, a lot of things happen pretty quickly. And how often, if you were trying to really narrate every single step, I mean, you'd have to be like an auctioneer going, so in terms of trying to get an idea of what you're looking for and what your expectations are on, for instance, like what a good narration would look like in terms of, like, obviously we have our story that we tell previously, and that goes through a lot of the different areas and even mentioning quite a bit of the individual steps. Like, essentially, do you want us to kind of just narrate as much as we can of, each individual like section of like, we're going over here. And for instance, ours may or may not follow like a one individual person type thing along this story. And is it kind of trying to talk about, where does this person follow along in the story? Or is it really trying to say as much as you can about each individual step so you can track each individual thing?
I wouldn't say, definitely don't go the individual step. I'm pulling up this reference video from 2011, one of the ones that I made. Let's share that one, and I will give you a very brief narration since, well, I did it at that time. Let's pull that one up. This was a Guinness World Record machine whereby it had 211 steps in order to solve this task. So get it full screen. So in this case, starting the switch, which starts the entire machine. And here we are in the Big Bang, where a gun pops, and it's quite literally a bang. From there, we move into our timeline, which helps indicate which section of the machine we're going through. As we move into the evolutionary stage, we have a frog that evolves into a tadpole, causing a lizard to climb, that evolves into a pterodactyl, and unfortunately, the pterodactyl causes a meteor to crash. And there we have an instant replay in this video, but a tadpole turning into a frog, which turns into a lizard, causing the pterodactyl to come back down. From there, as we move through our time machine, this time machine is traveling through all these different pieces of history. And of course, we move from the Jurassic Age all the way into the Ice Age. Moving from the Ice Age, here we have a squirrel chasing a nut, which causes the lake to break, and so on. And you start to get the idea that my aim there is telling a story versus the individual steps as I go along.
Yeah, narrating more about essentially showing, in your case, it truly was the evolution of things. But for a lot of these machines, it's more of about trying to make sure people stay on track with the story and what is happening, less about like, pin is pulled and this thing falls here that pulls this. And so exactly. It's more about telling the story of it in what is physically happening rather than trying to talk about what is happening with each individual step. And that makes sense.
Exactly. Because we'll get that a lot, especially with the younger group. They're going to like, the ball's going to cause this to go, which causes the dominoes to drop, which causes that. And that's perfectly fine. it's their beginning levels. But as we get into the high school and collegiate, there definitely is that more storytelling element that is scored, it's valued higher. And thus that's something that we are looking for, that theatrical presentation versus more direct narration.
Yeah. And that makes total sense. The biggest thing is essentially trying to make sense for us of exactly what we want to do, in the sense of, making sure that we narrate that properly without going too over the top of trying to really highlight too many individual things. It's all about finding that balance in between there.
And I recommend, I physically always wrote a script myself, and practice it, or just while it's running. You guys test it over and over and again. Somebody literally just trying to do a narration as it goes. If something does go wrong, just having that silly little line, because again, you can kind of turn a negative into a positive by, if an intervention happens, rather than just having that lull, if you make it funny, the judge, who is subjective, he's going to look at that and just, it's you're fixing something that went wrong, and you're just, again, you're adding to that presentation element to everything else. You're going to put yourself above somebody else.
Yeah, if you can add some humor in your misfortune, and especially if you can manage to incorporate it into your story, then it adds more to the story and not a sort of breaking the fourth wall of, oh no, this messed up. Yep. Now what do we do?
Because it's the horrible element of just when something goes wrong, or when there's an MC who's just, he passes off the mic and then the students just stand there without saying a word. Then nobody understands what's happening. And it's going to happen. I mean, it'll definitely occur. I'll have a secondary mic on me so I can kind of
add a little input here and there as you deem necessary.
Exactly. Just, to keep it flowing, because again, it is a giant show. So, but yeah. Anything else? What else you got?
For the most part, that pretty much covers thing on our base. So in terms of some of the feedback and some of the information that you've been or that you sent out to teams, we've kind of just been analyzing sort of the timing and figuring out the details of bringing the machine in, the time frame that we have to work on it, of that Friday evening heading into Saturday morning. So if we come up with any other questions, I will certainly either put them in the chat or reach back out to you. But those were the two ones that popped up to us in the immediate of what the things that we're looking at right now, of figuring out the logistics of everything that we have to figure out for the day before and day of, as well as just essentially where our focus is for this next month as we head forward and try to make the best machine we possibly can.
Love it. I love it. You guys are so on top of things. The one thing I'll say before you guys drop off, and that I've really been, I don't want to say pressured to say, but also, that little nudge in the rib cage of, we are sponsored by Crescent Oral-B. So the group or winners, whoever might appear on the late night talk show, they are going to be the ones to pay for such an event. And in that case, Crescent Oral-B really like their logo and their products. Thereby, whatever team does end up moving on to the late night show is going to be one that has, unfortunately, some product placement in it. So bearing that in mind for your team, for any team, because that, and then also with the added caveat of anybody who isn't currently using Crest brand toothpaste, it is it's a higher viscosity kind of toothpaste than, say, Colgate or what's the other one? Ben's there's a generic, not a generic one, more specialty one. Those have a lower viscosity, i.e. they're easier to squeeze out of the tube, whereas Crest,
you got to work for it.
You got to really, it took about 6 pounds of pressure for me to 6 pounds of rocks into a boot to squeeze it out of this tube. So if you do end up switching your brand of toothpaste to meet the sponsors, just keep that in mind, that just test it. Simply.
Yeah. Well, and that actually does bring up another question that I just thought of, and something that we've been working with. I won't reveal too much about our machine and how certain things work, especially with that final step. But one of the things that some of our members have brought up and wanted to sort of discuss and debate is exactly what is the expectation for the completion of that step. 4 more creative versions of putting toothpaste on a toothbrush. What is the extent of getting toothpaste on that toothbrush for it to count as completing the step. In terms of, I know you've seen our video and exactly what that looks like for us, but in some of the specific natures of it, what truly qualifies as completion of that step, if per se,
Sure,
whatever toothpaste that we have, if it doesn't completely like get on the bristle part of the toothbrush or so on and so forth.
So technically speaking, I never said that it had to get on the bristles.
Okay.
I've had younger students where they dip the other end in. Again, we have a broom where, somebody puts whipped cream on a broom. It's again, thinking of the presentation element to it. What I would recommend to any and all teams are, even if you're not using a toothpaste, having it look like toothpaste, have the color match would be, kind of a good element there, having that bluish, whitish appearance to it. As well as, the goal is to take in past cases of like pouring a bowl of cereal. What adds to it? Having the bowl of cereal in your hands afterwards. If you're going to be putting toothpaste on a toothbrush, having kind of the classic of, I have nothing stick-like nearby me for a change. But, basically, if your toothbrush is this, and then you pick it up, and then you're able to see that there's some form of liquid on some form of brush. So basically, if you're able to pick up your toothbrush with toothpaste, whatever it may be, and you kind of hold it there and you just do the classic pose like that, it's going to add to the story. It's going to add to the narrative, and it's going to physically show the judges and refs and myself that you've completed the task of what have you. So definitely that addition of let it do its thing, whatever it is going to do, and then display it. So.
Yeah, because we're certainly, we've tried to go on a much more creative route than
Sure.
than some other possibilities. But in terms of just making sure that whatever we do truly does qualify, we want to make sure that we have all those details ironed out. And especially you talk about the visibility aspect of it to try to make sure that it is clear that there's no, questioning when it happens of whether or not that final step is truly completed. So we'll definitely try to make sure that is as obvious as possible when it does happen.
And I want to thank you and all the teams in particular, because every team really took that visibility into consideration. And yeah, I never judged anything lower than that 61%. So it was well done to everybody. So.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I can't necessarily think of anything else specifically on our end, and for other more specific things, we definitely have the ability to reach out to you more directly in asking some of those more individual step questions, because of course, with you actually seeing what our machine has done. So
yes, for everybody that's not familiar, their camera angle, I know it. Like the machine is just right over there. He's probably looking at it, and
it's somewhere a little off screen from here, but don't want to reveal too much. We want to make sure that everybody gets a nice proper surprise of when they see our machine, because we're very proud of what we've put together. We obviously, as does every team, we've put a ton of time into this all, and we're really excited to see what what a month from now can happen, and we really want to make sure that we put our best foot forward in everything that we do. So we appreciate you, taking the time to, answer everyone's questions, and especially the communication of making sure all details for all teams have been presently clear. So we do not take that for granted. So.
Trying, because it's kind of, if I put in that effort, certainly that effort is being returned. And I will say that everybody's submission, I've been blown away by quite honestly all the divisions. So just it really shows that if I'm going to go to this level of effort, trying to give all this communication, doing these lives, it's really nice to see that teams like yourself and all divisions are, they're I can talk as much as I want, I can write as much as I want, but when at the end of the day, it's the teams have to submit and do something, and everyone stepped it up. So well done. Thank you, everyone.
Very excited.
Cheers. All right, I'm going to continue on with kind of the travel planning. Obviously, you guys are Purdue; you don't have to worry too much about it. But yeah, I'll make my way through everything fairly quickly for everyone else. All right, cheers. Leave a question, leave anything else in the comments, but I'm going to kick you off now.
All righty, thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. Awesome. So that was the Boilermaker Chain Reaction team, whereby they are one of the collegiate teams competing at the contest, one of 5 collegiate teams. With it, we have 10 apprentice teams, 10 from Division 1, middle school, 6 through 8, and 10 high school teams, competing at the national contest. So again, more teams than ever. And if anybody else has a question, comment, certainly leave it in the chat below. If you want to talk with me directly, I can certainly send you a link if you want to be like the Boilermaker team. But otherwise, I'm going to continue on. So if you are traveling to Purdue, hotels nearby are not the best option. That's why I separated into 2 different categories. The West Lafayette versions, which are expensive, and the Lafayette, where even I'm staying over there. It is about a 20-minute drive to campus, just FYI, whereby on one of the days, you will want to get to the Armory somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. the day of the event. So, if you do want to be extra close, if you don't want to have that extra 20 minutes of travel time, something to certainly factor in. For any teams, I've had teams contact me about shipping the machines out there. You can ship it to a FedEx facility for sure. But there's no place on campus that'll actually accept your machine, accept your bins, your parts in advance. That's not something that they offer. So yeah, generally speaking, you won't be able to ship your machines in advance. And we do have one team that's trying to fly with it, but in all my 30 years, I've never successfully flown with the machine. So take that for what it's worth. If you're having friends, family, or whomever fly in, maybe one of your team members is driving the machine out, I recommend flying into Indianapolis versus Chicago because, well, Chicago is twice the distance. Food and beverages during the event. Originally, I did say that there's going to be pizza at the event. Unfortunately, that due to budget cuts, thank you for first year, do please bring your dinner, your own dinner options for the first night. And then the next day there will be food trucks available. But again, we recommend just bringing your own food, snacks, and what have you, refillable water bottles, stuff to that effect. Fairly simple stuff. Parking at Purdue, be completely free. There is the university garage that's pretty much kitty corner to the Armory, completely free. So no worry there. Teams are able to park there if you have a box truck or a trailer. There'll be a special lot for you to park at. Simply just enter the Armory at the designated spot, which, pull this up, you'll enter there, and then from there, we'll have somebody direct you to where you can park your vehicle. When you do arrive, so this is for all teams, whether you're from Purdue or traveling from all over the place. Again, we want to make this smooth and easy. Don't just drive to your spot. Please do a nice, lovely clockwise pattern into the Armory. That way you're able to pull up to your spot, and then people can pull in behind you. Everyone's able to unload if they want to. Generally speaking as well, the younger divisions probably aren't going to be driving in, or they might be loading in the next morning. So it's a huge space. If you've never been there before, there'll be no issue whatsoever. You also notice that this is the map for the event. So pulling that up, the next day, this is what it'll look like. No real difference between the two, of course, just, with the addition of chairs. At around 9 o'clock that night before is when all cars are going to have to be out of the Armory. And that's because we need to set up the chairs. We need to set up the tables, the stage, so on and so forth for the event. So if you arrive between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock on Friday, you'll be able to drive straight into your place. Anytime else, you will have to carry it, transport it, wheel it in, or as I put in the manual, you can teleport it in, because if you figured out that wonderful method, you basically probably won the contest already. Each division has their own section, as you can see, seating as well. Each team will have, my computer just went weird. Each team will have their own dedicated table behind there. You're going to have a power strip for you as well, where you can plug in your machine. Everything that's guaranteed in the rule books will be there. So really looking forward to it. I'm so happy with the layout. I think it's going to look amazingly. It gives every team the chance to feel like they're on the national stage. We're not overlapping the divisions. Each team will have their chance to shine. So with it, the other thing that I want to bring up is you have friends and family that can't make it to the event. It will be live streamed on my channel. So exactly where you're at right now, if you're watching live, or if you're watching it later, I have the streaming rights. Yay me. Whereby the entire event, which is going to run from roughly 8:45 a.m. to 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon. The whole thing will be streamed live on this channel. So feel free to tune in. I put the specific start times on that. We'll be posting it all over the web, advertising, stuff like that. But yeah, really excited to be able to announce that we are live streaming the event for folks that can't travel to it. And really, that's just to help us promote to STEM educators or those teams that were, I had a lot of the nervous emails of like, we want to participate, but we don't know what it's like. We'll wait till next year. So I'm very happy to have this option. From that, if you did, if you are moving to nationals, this is kind of the nationals packet. Again, there's nothing like top secret here, so that's why you can share it with everybody. Like I mentioned, the move-in starts at 5 o'clock on Friday, the night before. It is at the Purdue Armory on Purdue University's campus in Indiana. So pretty much the middle of nowhere. Having gone to Purdue University myself as a student, I can say that with all truth, that one edge of the campus is a cornfield. It's the middle of nowhere. Where you'll be staying at with the hotels, there's plenty of options if you need a Home Depot, Lowe's, all those things exist. But yeah, Purdue, right in the middle of the country. With it, there's no registration fee. You don't have to pay anything to be a part of it. Really, really proud of that fact. And the event schedule is pretty much all laid out on just this one simple page. Trying to highlight. Again, you'll have from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock the night before. So cars have to be out by 9. The end of the day, we'll start wrapping up at around 10 o'clock that day. So you'll have 5 solid hours that you could set up your machine the night before. And then the next day, 6 a.m. is when the doors will open. I'm trying to get somebody in maybe a little earlier, to be determined on that. That's really to allow the teams that are either local or again, mishaps happen, of course. So just trying to give that extra option for people that, maybe are a little bit late. You have about 2 hours to set up. If you haven't started setting up by 8 a.m., basically when the doors open to the audience, I don't want to do it, but, we just can't have teams loading in at the same time that cameras are going around, stuff like that. So really, really, really get in the doors 6 a.m., start setting up, have it ready to go in time for the contest to start, which it will start at around 9 o'clock. I'm just going to do the very briefest of introductions. Again, I want it to be 5, maybe 10 minutes, just kind of clarifying the rules for all the audience that are there. Most of the audience is going to be friends and family, so they're familiar with it. But again, something nice, quick, easy, and literally just get straight into the contest. And that's going to start with the apprentice division. So if you are from the college division or high school, you're going to be going after lunch. That means that you have plenty of time to practice, set up, do everything that you want. The only thing I ask is you do it respectfully, because again, we want everyone to have their moment on the national spotlight. So as a team is running their machine or as they're giving their presentation, maybe come by, watch. Just don't be running your machine if you've got loud elements, just it's common sense, be respectful, stuff like that. So, and especially when it is those younger divisions, I really encourage the high school and college kids to come out there and cheer, be supportive, watch them. You're able to talk to them, give them feedback afterwards. That's kind of the whole goal, is that the younger students can see from the older students, and the older students can motivate them on. From there, we do have the First Lady of Purdue. She's actually going to come out to the contest. So she's going to give a quick little talk to everyone. She wants to go around, meet the teams, say hello to everybody. We're going to move directly into the next division after that. And each of them should take around an hour and a half, something of the sort. Really, everyone knows that some machines might take 2 minutes. Some machines take 20 seconds to run. It really all depends. And I can't predict that as much as the hosts, the sponsors of the event want me to predict it. From there, there'll be a lunch break, roughly around 11:45 to 12:30. High school and college will just go back to back. There'll be a quick turnaround for awards, and really, it might be 4 o'clock, it might be sooner. Again, my goal is to get you out of there as soon as possible, but roughly around 4 o'clock is the award ceremony for the event. So if you're tuning in, plan for maybe 3:45 tuning in to, make sure everything's on track. But with it, yeah, all teams, all awards are going to get handed out at that 4 o'clock hour. I put a note on there as well of a lot of teams like feedback. Now, the judges for each division, just because we have some pretty notable people in each division, thankfully, coming, they're only going to be there during their time. Each division has different judges. So they're basically going to be able to supply me feedback, and then I'm going to relay that to the teams. So after the award ceremony, there's a classroom located. If you take a look in the upper left corner, there's a classroom there whereby I'm just going to hold a team meeting with maybe even in the main floor, honestly, with anybody that wants more critical feedback on their machines, wants to hear more about it. I'm happy to give you guys that right there in the moment. So, and then from there, yeah, it'll be breakdown. If you are one of the younger divisions going before lunch, when lunchtime comes, during that break, I will allow you to bring your machines out. So if you have, if you want to leave early, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to trap you there. Just don't bring a vehicle into the armory because obviously there's all the chairs. Please do not drive into the chairs. I don't want this event to be known for other things. So, but yeah, you'll be able to bring your machines out, start unloading during the lunch period only. But the second that we go to the next division, just, again, respect, kind of commonplace things. We covered the parking, entry into the armory. There's no issues whatsoever. It's a big open door, completely flat. You're going to place your machines on the ground. It'll be a taped off boundary where you should go. Everyone's going to be assigned a number exactly where your machine should go. And again, I'm going to be there. It's not like I'm leaving everybody hanging. I'm going to send you out exactly which team you are. Like, Boilermaker Chain Reaction Team, they were here. Let's just say you guys are 1D. You can pretty much figure out where you are. 1D, the high school divisions, the C division, B, so on and so forth, and the number 1 through 10. And it'll be very clearly marked. Everybody just go to your spot at that time for moving. From there, what else? Let's see. Machine display. If you want to, you're more than welcome to bring additional tables. One table kind of act as a workstation, but otherwise your machine is going to sit on a floor. So whether your team decided to build up on platforms or what have you, or if you want to bring just a whole bunch of tables yourself and set your machine on top of it, perfectly fine. Those bottom tables are not part of your square. They're not part of your machine boundary. Wherever your machine physically exists, the bottom, that's the start of your 8-foot cube. So if you want to bring 8-foot ladders and put your machine at the top of 8-foot ladders, it's interesting, but go for it. So I don't have a problem with it. So, again, I mentioned the testing your machine, seating. If you are coming to the contest and you bring more team members than what have you, because of budgeting, because it's our first year, again, like we've had to compromise on quite a number of things. So what we're able to do is we have a table for each team in the back, and each team's going to get 2 chairs. So you'll be able to sit there in the back. But if you need to sit down, obviously it's a long day. I certainly understand that. We do recommend either bringing a folding chair with you, like think of a camping chair, or you are allowed to go out into the audience and sit as well. But just kind of the heads up of that, both bringing chairs for yourself and refillable water bottles, because stay hydrated. There's a video of me online from one of the contests where I've been up for like 73 hours, and you can just see how dehydrated I am. I'm basically falling asleep during the interview. Some teams do take it more seriously, and like myself in the past, I forgot to sleep, eat, and drink during that time. So take care of yourselves and bring a chair, bring a water bottle with you. Moving along, we've covered that quite extensively. Make sure that your machine is ready to go at the start of your division. It's going to be very clear, very obvious. You're going to hear me all day. I'm so sorry about that in advance. But I will announce that concludes the end of Division 2. And in just a few minutes, as we move on to the collegiate division, they'll be ready to run their machines. And that's how we're going to keep the event going pretty rapidly. And with there being 10 teams, it's I'm going to announce okay, and now it's the start of the 3rd run for the 10th and final team from the high school division. That should be a big clue to the collegiate teams that, hey, we're about 10 minutes away. And when we get to you, your machine should be reset and ready to go. You're not going to give your presentation and then reset your machine. Have it reset in advance. That's going to make the biggest difference. That's how we're going to be able to flow through the contest. So be ready to go. I'm going to cover that in a little bit. Move out. What we're able to do is we have a dumpster. So say that your machine doesn't go well. Say that if you're traveling and maybe you rented a box truck and you put your machine in the box truck, but maybe you want to fly home. We will have a dumpster available if you want to leave any parts behind, if parts break, if there's rubbish generated from your machine. One team has confetti, that is available for use. In order to pay for said dumpster, it is a $25 per team charge for that. If you want to use the dumpster, you can pay via the PayPal QR code there, or just pay us on site. And then you can dump literally whatever you want into this 30-yard dumpster. Except bodies. Don't do that. Please don't. Again, I don't want this contest being known for something else. If you do want to use it, let me know in advance, or if not, no big deal. From there, I made it very clear as to what the schedule of events is. I tried to. If there's any questions on this, feel free, let me know in the chat. Anybody, again, new here, I know people are popping in and out. Certainly leave a comment or a chat, or leave a question in the chat for me. But I really, really wanted to make it just so obvious as to how the event was, because I know when I did the event years and years ago, it was never clear. And how it works is, for any division, if you're team 1A, I'm going to come up to you, I'm going to announce who your team is, I'm going to hand you the microphone, and that's when your team's going to be able to do your presentation. After your presentation is over, you are immediately then going to start your machine. So what we're trying to do is, you'll have the initial presentation to start. Don't run your machine at the same time that the presentation's going. You'll have that chance to narrate during your run. So keep those two elements separate. And it can be short. I mean, if it's 30 seconds, if it's a minute. But we don't, either one, especially for the starting narration, we don't want that to be, the ball triggers this, which does this, which causes this to roll, which does this. Even if it's a very simple machine in your eyes, maybe you think there's nothing to tell behind it. Maybe say, we're from here. We worked 20 hours on this project. We're really proud of this. We decided we'd solve our task this way. Just something that adds to it, because both the video and the machine run should speak for itself, quite honestly. So after your team run has done, I'm going to announce team 1A from the example school has finished their run successfully with no interventions in a time of 1 minute and 22 seconds. From there, we're going to move on to the next team. So we're going to move on to team 2A. That time now, team number 1 should be resetting their machine for the second run. We're not going team 1A, and then we're not going to sit there and watch you reset it and then go again. We're going to move on to the next team, and you're going to have that entire time that all the other teams are going to reset your machine. Or in the case of if something goes wrong, this is why I bring this up specifically, because say your first run is disastrous. Say the ball goes off into oblivion, nothing worked properly. Why we do go in that why we go in that line is, you are more than welcome to fix your machines, adjust whatever you need to in that time frame. Because as a judge, as somebody looking at the machine, we want to see improvement. We want to see that teamwork. If your first run goes catastrophically bad, it's unfortunate. If the next run is really, really great, that shows us that you're problem solving. You're really kind of living up to the Engineering Olympics of America side of this contest. And it shows us that you're able to solve problems and work together, and you're just going to score highly if that happens. Reversely, if you have a perfect run the very first time, and your second run or third run, if you're in the upper divisions, if your machine just goes from perfect to 3 interventions to 10 interventions, your machine is falling apart. And we're going to take note of that. That's definitely the reliability category. And I'm certainly guilty of that in one of my contests from, I believe it was 2009. Our machine worked, and then it just slowly faltered throughout. And it was terrible to watch. And again, we really want to see fixing and teamwork in this event. So again, in the first 2 divisions, You're only going to do the 2 runs on the second run. So after you've made it through your first run, you're going to go back. I'm going to announce you. So I'm still going to announce you and now it's team number 1's, and this is their second attempt. Their first run didn't go so well. Let's see how well their next run goes. You're not going to give your presentation again. You're going to take the microphone and you're going to start your machine, and we're going to hope it works well. And from that, that's it. Once your machine is done, I recommend that you just kind of join the flow of action, watch the other teams, and cheer and support. It can certainly be stressful as it's happening. So, and there's going to be more nervous students than not. Just that extra supportive bit and making it a fun event versus, like wildly competitive. It's going to make all the difference to a younger student. So with it, same exact thing for the upper divisions, except it's 3 runs versus 2 runs. And yeah, that is basically it for the contest. It is, it's going to be a long day. I'm not going to lie to you. But it is something that we're just so thrilled to have back and up and running. And, anybody watching this, clearly you're probably, if you're still watching at this point, you're clearly involved in the contest. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of it. If there's no other questions, I'll hang up for like another minute, but with it, that is everything that I wanted to cover about the Rube Goldberg Machine National Contest for 2024. And great news, we're already planning 2025. So hopefully I'll be able to make some announcements at the national contest when it does come time. But yeah, I'm so thrilled with how it's all turned out. I'm glad to be providing as much information as I can. But again, if you're watching this, at this point, and again, there's questions, comments, or concerns, if you have an issue or a worry, still feel free to send me an email, zach@rubegoldberg.org. The amount of emails I get is pretty staggering. But I do try to answer as quickly as possible and make sure that it's as inclusive as not. If you aren't a part of the Rube Goldberg National Contest and you want to be a part of a contest, you are welcome to submit in the online Rube Goldberg Machine, whereby even teams in the nationals. So if your team does not win, by the way, if your team doesn't win the national contest, you are allowed to still submit your machine into the online machine contest. Fun fact there. For those teams, I'll provide more information when it comes time. With it, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you've made it to this point, which is probably like 2 of you, even in both live as well as those who watch it afterwards. With it, have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next month for the last chat, and then finally in person for the real event. So have a good evening, everyone. Take care.